Over the world.
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 I warmly welcome you to my new channel, and I hope with all my heart that you will have a good time here. And if you feel fun while watching my channel, please click on the like button and subscribe to the channel. This new channel was opened for two reasons. The first, to make you feel entertained, learn, have fun and discover new things. Second, to help my parents pay for my university studies. Thanks for your time. Cinema, that painting that expresses what goes on inside a person and what happens outside him, that art that deepens us into thousands of secrets, stories that we might not have heard about before, and that entertainment that makes us go through experiences across the world and the universe pushes us to the limits of our minds. This cinema was and still is a way to tell stories, and of course it is almost always dominated by fiction, or stories written by its writer, but there are also those terrifying true stories, realistic stories that prompted filmmakers to produce them in cinematic form. So, in this video, let me take you on a journey through a list of 10 horror films based on true stories and events, a list that will make you wonder about its truth. Did this horror really happen? 1. The Haunting in Connecticut, 2009. In order to provide a suitable environment for their sick child, the Campbell family moves to Connecticut, where they discover that their new home contains a terrifying history within its walls, and a fear of the past will haunt the family in its present. For this story, it is based on what happened to the family of Carmen Adecker, where her house was previously an embalmer's house, and the dead bodies were mummified between its walls, and it is also said that the house was subjected to sorcery rituals in the past, so Carmen suffered because of many suspicious incidents surrounding her, as she discovered that an evil entity resides with her. In the end the house was subjected to a terrifying exorcism, and then her story was transformed with some of the author's imagination and the testimonies of specialists for this film. 2. The Town That Dreaded Sundown, 1976. The story may seem simple at first, as it tells of a policeman who hunts down a serial killer who has caused panic to a small village in the Texas suburbs, after killing 5 victims. But the film is based on the story of the real serial killer named Ghost Killer, who terrorized the town of Texarkana in Texas during the year 1946, where his crimes caused many factors of chaos and terror. 3. Snowtown, 2011. A charming serial killer after he bonds with his girlfriend and takes her young son into his care, forcing him to take part in his crimes. This film carries a special horror among its scenes, as the true story that it tells is already one of the most famous and terrifying stories in the history of Australia, as the series of crimes in the town of Snowtown were brutal crimes, committed by John Austin, Robert Wagner, and James Flasks, between August 1992 and 1999, and with these 3 was a 4th person, Mark Hayden, who was helping to dispose of the bodies. 4. Monster, 2003. Eileen has been a prostitute for much of her life, but soon it takes a dangerous turn in the path of darkness, when she turns into a serial killer who lures and kills men during the year 2002. Monster takes us on a journey through Eileen's life, when she tries to get back on the right path, but that attempt fails and she finds herself back on the path of blood again. 5. The Watcher, 2016. In 2014, a married couple bought a new home in New Jersey, for themselves and their children. Something about home and family, he says that the house belongs to his family. The film presents this true story and takes us on a terrifying journey with the couple, as they try to escape from the eyes of the Watcher. 6. The Quiet Ones, 2014. In 1972, psychologist Dr. Joel Wyden conducted the so-called Philip experiment, a metapsychological experiment, which suggests that a person can communicate with imaginary ghost figures according to his will. That hides behind the wall of the human soul and did not make much progress, and it was severely criticized by the scientific community. But this film takes us on a journey between the folds of this real experience, when it follows in its story a university teacher who decides to do the experiment with some of his students, to prove that ghosts are nothing but a reflection of the human psyche, but his experience soon leads him into an even more terrifying darkness than he expected. 7. The Afflicted, 2011. Teresa Jimmy Franchinoir, this is the shocking name of an American woman convicted of torturing her 6 children, killing 2 of them, and then forcing others to hide the traces of her crimes, after she also killed her first husband. Teresa was never a normal character, she was using her different interpretations of the Bible texts to support her crimes against her children, but their torment had to end, and this is what this movie tells. The film adopts the story of Teresa, and narrates it again in the embodiment of the different mother Maggie, who tortures her 4 children according to the Bible, and thus takes us on the path of her children's attempts to survive, forcing us to live their terrifying experience in a terrifying home. Hounds of Love, 2016. This horror and crime film tells the story of a young girl, who tries to escape from two lovers who are chasing her, in order to torture her before killing her. 9. The Sacrament, 2013. In this film, journalist Jack Williams pursues his sister's trail deep in the woods in search of her, after she joins a religious extremist group led by a madman. The film quotes its story from the story of the famous Johnston Massacre, in which nearly 1,000 people committed mass suicide, on the orders of their spiritual leader Jim Jones. This massacre represents one of the worst black points in the history of human consciousness, and the film delves into this dark spot of religious fanatic mentality. 10. The Exorcist. A classic American horror film, produced in 1973 based on the novel of the same name by author William Peter Blatty. The events of the film tell about a girl possessed by evil spirits, whose mother tries to bring her back to normal life by using priests, and these events are taken from a true story of an attempt to exorcise spirits from inside the body of a 14-year-old boy that took place in 1949 and became very famous at the time, and a plot was certainly added to the events to become more terrifying and mysterious. The Exorcist was nominated for 10 Academy Awards, won 2 awards, Best Adapted Screenplay and Best Sound Recording, and grossed nearly $500 million worldwide, starring Elaine Burstyn, Linda Blair, Max von Sydow, Jason Miller and Mercedes McCambridge. The Exorcist has an IMDb rating of 8/10, and Rotten Tomatoes has an 85% rating.